Hi there, my name's Tim McLean. I enjoy receiving Mike Enz's emails with the pastor's picks. In the pastor's picks, there's links to resources or worship videos that I might not otherwise come across. So today I wanted just to share briefly two applications. The first app is the YouVersion Bible app, also known as the Bible app. A lot of people have it already. But 3 weeks ago, or at least it's new to me as of 3 weeks ago, they launched a new feature called Story. And if you go on the Story, then it launches this daily devotional. There's at the very beginning, it just tries to get you to quiet your soul. After that, there's a verse of the day, followed by somebody speaking about the verse of the day through a video, and then there's a devotional, there's questions, and a prayer. It's real dynamic, and I'm really enjoying it. So if you want to have a look at that, it's a great resource. Another app is the Life Church app. And on a side note, it's the Life Church that is actually responsible or has created the YouVersion Bible app. But the Life Church app, again, it's another wonderful resource that I use for sermons. If you go to media and then view all, you'll see lots of different types of sermons, and you can download for offline use the videos or the audio. And so that's what I'll do. I'll often download the audio so that when I'm driving, I can listen to different sermons. And sometimes Addie and I will even watch the sermons rather than watching a movie. And to be honest, when we do that, it always seems to be a much better trade-off. Speaking of Addie, she and I, we host and we lead a life group at our home, usually on Thursday evenings. And this past year, the beginning of 2020, we decided to do the Habits series from the Life Church app. And habits, at first glance, might sound like a bit unusual for a Bible study. However, it's full of practical, positive change for your life, and a great way to put to practice a lot of biblical principles. And the better that we understand the habits that are operating in our lives right now, well, then the better we are to be living sacrifices for God. I want to read Romans 12, 1-2. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, on account of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God, which is your spiritual service of worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what is the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. So, how do I make my habits pleasing to God? It's a great question. Specifically since we fail so often. As we learned with New Year's resolutions, scientists say that 92% of all our New Year's resolutions fail by, do you want to take a guess? They fail by Valentine's Day. So 92% of us give up a month and a half later. So it's pretty obvious that the majority of us, we need help reaching our goals. And Craig Rochelle, he's got 3 sermons in this series, and the first one's about identity. Who before do. Well, what does that mean, you may ask? Well, his main point is that we shouldn't focus on the doing right away. If you get the task, the goal of losing some weight, you shouldn't focus on just trying to lose weight right at the beginning. You should try to focus on the who goals, your identity, because research says that new habits, they're temporary, and they're only temporary until they become a part of who you are. Hence, it makes sense, right? 92% of the New Year's resolutions, they fail after a month and a half. So the best way is to start focusing on your identity. Who do you want to be? Because once you determine your identity, well, identity shapes action. And when you know who you are, then you know what to do. And it's cyclical as well. So once you know what to do, well, then that shapes your identity. So it goes round and round a little bit. But we're better to start with identity. For example, rather than just wanting to, read 20 books this year, 20 good books, rather, I should say, I want to become a reader. Or if my goal is, well, I want to journal, perhaps a better idea would be, well, I want to be accountable for my actions, what I do and what I say throughout the day, and therefore I want to journal because I want to be somebody who's accountable. Or I want to get out of debt. Well, again, perhaps a better goal is to focus on, I want to be a person who is a great steward of what's given to me. So this idea of focusing on identity will help tremendously with habits for Christians and non-Christians alike. It's proven. Focus on your identity and that will help you. But I believe as Christians, we can tap into something even more powerful. Romans 6:7 and 18 reads, "We know that our old sinful selves were crucified with Christ, so that sin might lose its power in our lives. We are no longer slaves to sin. For when we died with Christ, we were set free from the power of sin. Now," verse 18, "now you are free from your slavery to sin, and you have become slaves to righteous living." So God's amazing love, it's set me free. He's given me a new identity. I am a child of God. And He wants to empower me, and He wants me to become a witness. So as a part of the church body and church family, we all have different abilities and talents. We have different spiritual gifts. We have different interests, and we probably all feel different callings on our lives as well. So as we step out in faith, God can use our willingness, and He can do great things through us. He can do great things if we, create these habits. So based on how God is working in your life, based on your talents, your gifts, your interests, start asking the question, who does God want you to become? Start there. Then secondly, once you've done that, then you're ready to start habits. So Craig's second sermon focuses on new habits. Did you know that 40% of our daily actions are not conscious decisions, but automated routines? So we've got 40% of our day, we've just got automation going on. For example, I can drive from Lennoxville to Granby, and for the most part, I don't really realize where I'm turning, how fast I'm going. I'll remember maybe who I talked to on the phone, and I'll remember perhaps the sermon that I was listening to online, but I'm a bit oblivious to how I actually operated the car, because that's a part that's in my mind that I've automated. And that's just it. That's a habit. A habit is a series of automated solutions that solve the problems and stresses that you face regularly. As we grow up, we've got tons of experiences. And then there's also the culture that's around us, our family, close friends, and they've all influenced our decisions. So much so that we subconsciously act on these, and we create habits so that throughout our day, we automate things, and we don't even know it. A situation pops up, our mind searches its database of previous solutions, if it does have a solution, anything that it considers highly successful, and then it starts the process. And if that result is deemed good again, then that habit is reinforced. So this describes what is known as the habit loop. There's a trigger, there's an action, and there's a reward. And if I want my new habit, for example, to be doing a daily devotional, well, then I'll choose a specific time of day, and I'll sit in a comfy chair and I'll do my devotional. Afterwards, I'll probably feel God's peace, and I'll feel good about investing my time in eternal things. And as I repeat this loop over and over again, well, I get a trigger. Well, that's my time of day or the comfy chair. I have an action, that's me doing a devotional. And I have a reward, this supernatural peace and spiritual intimacy. After I repeat this a number of times, well, I can then start to associate the reward of that supernatural peace with the trigger. It can go so far as that when I notice the time, maybe on my watch or my phone, and I see that comfy chair or those two combined, I'll crave that peace and spiritual intimacy, and therefore I'll repeat the daily habit, and the desire will grow to do it. And this reinforces a good habit, which is a great thing. It's great to have good habits reinforced and to sort of have good habits be automated in our lives, right? So when you are in this process of trying to create new good habits, there are two key factors that help. One is to make it obvious, and the second is to make it easy. So if I continue with my idea to start my daily devotion, my new habit of a daily devotional, then I want to make it obvious. Well, how can I do that? Well, I could set an alarm on my phone. Or if I always have my coffee at 9 a.m., for example, well, then I can do my devotional while I'm having my coffee or right after I'm having my coffee. And I can always sit maybe in the exact same comfy chair if that's possible. To make it easy, perhaps I could start with a 5-minute devotional, like I mentioned that the story in the YouVersion Bible app. I can do a devotional like that. It takes maybe 5 minutes. Or I could say, I don't have that much time, or that's too difficult for me right now. Well, I'm just going to start with the verse of the day. I could also maybe choose a time of day when I'm by myself so that I don't get so easily distracted. Trying to make it easy for me. Make it obvious and make it easy. And I get it. Sometimes, we're tempted to think, well, this small action, it won't add up. It won't make an impact. But to be honest, it's not true. If we are consistent, these small beginnings will have a compound impact. And our lives, right now, my life is the result of all the small good and bad decisions I've made. And so small decisions have huge impacts over time. And there's a really encouraging verse in Zechariah 4:10. It says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." God knows, right? He knows the desires of our hearts. He knows our effort and our current situation, and he also knows our potential. And he desires great things for us so that his name can be praised. So, based on who God is calling you to become, what is one habit that you need to start? Just pick one. And it's best, to be honest, if it's an easy one. So the third and final sermon it deals with stopping bad habits. And the trick is, make the habit difficult to do. Proverbs 4:14 and 15 says, "Do not set foot on the path of the wicked, or walk in the ways of evildoers. Avoid it. Do not travel on it. Turn from it and go on your own way." Right? Solomon was explicit. Make bad habits difficult to do. And that's exactly what we need to do. We only have so much willpower, so we need to help ourselves. Like when our willpower is higher, we need to sort of put things in place so that when we are weak, we can help ourselves. By trying to do our best to remove the trigger and disrupt the action that's in this bad habit loop. And some interesting examples that I came across in the way that people were creative in trying to make their bad habit difficult. I just wanted to share two of them. One person, they wanted to watch less TV. So they're having a difficult time. So finally they decided, I'm going to unplug all of the cables at the back of the TV. And then the next time that I want to go watch TV, I'm going to think, do I really want to watch TV? Or do I want to take the time and plug in, the wires to the TV, to the Apple TV, to the DVR box, the cable box, whatever you have, the speakers. So it acts as a natural deterrent. So that's one thing that has helped a person watch less TV. Another person was having troubles with social media, and they wanted they needed help. And so they asked a friend on Monday morning. They said, okay, look here, you create a new password for me for all my social media accounts. And then on Friday, that friend gave them the new password. The person then had access to social media on the weekends, but then on Monday, they changed the passwords again. To each their own. But the idea behind this was that people were making it difficult for themselves to, so that they would not continue with a bad habit. So what a great investment. Craig also discusses, 5 major triggers that lead to bad habits and how to avoid them. And to be honest, he goes on to so many other details in all three of his sermons that I just highly recommend that you watch them. So I'm going to leave it at that. But in summary, based on who God is calling you to become, what one habit do you need to start, and what one bad habit do you need to break?